The story starts with a girl feeding a boy, and immediately the question arises: are they a couple? The boy, clearly uncomfortable, tries to avoid eating, and the girl, looking both teasing and menacing, presses him about why he's running away. His response is a half-hearted claim that couples act like this, but he quickly clarifies that they're not one, at least not yet. The girl, with a sly grin, mocks him, saying they're just friends. After a brief pause, the boy clarifies further, explaining that eating together is usually a sign of getting along well, but the girl surprises him by pulling out a homemade bento. The boy realizes the implications. Sharing a homemade meal is a couple's thing. The question lingers: what are they then? Friends? Lovers? Something else entirely? The narrative then jumps back to an elegant celebration with a couple clinking glasses of wine. The woman is clearly delighted with the sophisticated setting, thanking the man Saichi, who is, in fact, the protagonist. They're celebrating an anniversary, a moment she believes is too good to be true, especially at her age. Saichi assures her that age is irrelevant, and in a sudden burst of emotion he declares his love for her. Just as he's about to sign the marriage certificate, he pauses, suddenly remembering an emergency that calls him away. The woman, understanding his role, allows him to leave but reminds him to take the document with him. But as soon as Saichi is alone, he smashes his phone and tears up the certificate, frustrated with himself. His sense of relief is short-lived when he hears a congratulatory voice behind him. Saichi turns to find his superior Taka, who praises him for his success in pulling off the scam. Saichi, a little on edge, asks Taka not to sneak up on him. Taka quickly shifts the conversation to another job, orders from the organization they work for, and they need Saichi for one last mission. Saichi reluctantly agrees, hopeful this will truly be his final task. Taka introduces the target, a woman named Ren Karasuma. However, the shock hits when Saichi learns that Karasuma is a police officer. Taka explains that Karasuma has been interfering with their operations, and the organization needs her out of the way before a major deal tomorrow night. Saichi, clearly unsettled, tries to argue but is shut down by Taka, who reminds him of the consequences of failure. The tension builds as Saichi arrives at the police department, knowing full well the danger he's walking into. He's mentally preparing himself for hell, only to be corrected by a voice. This isn't District 1 of hell, but District 3. As he turns, he locks eyes with Karasuma, her sharp gaze cutting through him like a knife. She pulls out her gun and aims it at him, making it clear she doesn't take kindly to strangers. Saichi, now panicking on the inside, wonders if his criminal record will ruin everything. Karasuma, still suspicious, doesn't miss a beat, questioning if he's really just an ordinary citizen. Meanwhile, Saichi awkwardly tries to maintain composure, stammering that he's just lost something. Karasuma, not buying it for a second, orders him to step into the office. The scene shifts to an interrogation room where Saichi, playing along, thanks Karasuma for the paperwork she hands him to fill out. As he awkwardly fills out the form, he inquires about the police database she mentioned, complimenting her skills, though she seems entirely unimpressed. She points out a mistake he made on the form, something Saichi quickly apologizes for, his mind racing as he tries to figure out his next move. In the back of his head, he's mentally calculating every possible scenario. After all, he may have just stumbled into one of the most dangerous situations of his career, and there's no going back now. It's a dance of wits and tension, and Saichi knows he'll need to keep his cool if he's going to make it out alive. The strict police officer has no experience with romance and has never been in a relationship. Meanwhile, Saichi, a con artist, knows that understanding his enemy is the first step to success. He also notices that she has an unusually sharp instinct for crime, meaning she is always on high alert. However, right now, she seems focused only on the lost item report he submitted. In other words, she's acting purely on procedure, and as soon as the missing item is found, she'll contact him. Saichi thinks that if he can keep her attention occupied, she won't have time to focus on him. His chosen method, however, is a bit unorthodox. Without hesitation, he tells her that she's incredibly beautiful. But his true plan, seduction, at first glance, this seems like a ridiculous move, but it actually has a purpose. First, he doesn't want to waste time, so he's going for a short-term strategy. Second, Since she has no experience with romance, he figures that instead of slow, subtle advances, a direct approach will be more effective. However, Ren, the officer, reacts with complete disgust, wondering what on earth he's saying. Seiichi, unfazed, considers this just the beginning. The real battle is about to start. He doubles down, complimenting her again, saying there aren't many beautiful women like her, especially ones who radiate such a cool and powerful aura. On top of that, being a police officer who protects people makes her even more amazing. No one dislikes being called beautiful, especially by someone they just met. Seiichi then asks if she'd like to go out for a meal together. Inside his head, he notes that she isn't responding at all, and by the end of today, death might be his only fate. His internal monologue is interrupted when Ren asks what he means by that. Seiichi reflects that, under normal circumstances, getting someone to fall for this tactic is almost impossible. But if he wants to close the distance between them, he needs to go all in. So in one bold move, he declares that it's love at first sight. Ren pauses, processing his words. After a moment she sighs, deciding she has no choice but to accept his invitation. Later, Seiichi contacts Taka, who instructs him to take Ren to the designated location that night. However, Seiichi still can't fully grasp what kind of person Ren truly is. Somehow, against all odds, he has managed to make a connection with her. Later at a cafe, Ren slides a marriage certificate across the table. Seiichi, completely stunned, asks what it is. Ren, completely serious, tells him it's exactly what it looks like. Confused, he asks why she's giving him this, and without hesitation, she responds, it's because he fell in love with her at first sight. A flashback reveals Ren's past. She had always lived strictly by the rules, never allowing herself to experience love. She never felt a connection to romance and, over time, convinced herself that it wasn't for her. Yet deep down, she envied those who had it. But then Seiichi appeared, showering her with compliments. No matter how tough someone is, very few women dislike being called beautiful, and Ren was no exception. However, she also wondered, what is the most important quality for a police officer? And why was Seiichi saying these things about her? That's why she asked the reason for his compliments, and Seiichi replied that this is love at first sight, and just like that, a woman in love is born. A love monster. Back to the present, Ren mentions that if they get married, she will become Karasuma Seiichi Ren. However, Seiichi internally panics. He had given a fake name on the lost item report, meaning this entire situation is spiraling out of control. If things continue like this, he's doomed. Originally, his plan was to escape as soon as possible. His target is a police officer, and if they grow closer, the chances of her uncovering the truth increase significantly. Marriage is definitely out of the question. He tries to slow things down, saying they barely know each other and should take time to learn more first. But Ren, her eyes dangerously sharp, insists that if the goal is marriage, they might as well do it immediately. She claims her heart is already full of love, and there's no such thing as a fake relationship. Neither of them wants to back down. In desperation, Seiichi argues that they don't have the official seal required for marriage registration, meaning they have to wait. But Ren, completely prepared, pulls out the seal, proving that she had anticipated this. Seiichi internally screams, she's too meticulous. Plus, he used a fake name. If she submits this, it's game over. His mind races, searching for an escape. If he lets things go any further, he'll be doomed. His only option is to stall. So thinking fast, he says that rushing into marriage would be a waste of time. They should start by being friends first. Ren suddenly leaves the table without saying a word. Seiichi asks where she's going, but she doesn't respond, so he assumes she's just heading to the restroom. He sighs, looking up, thinking to himself, getting her to fall for him and not fall for real him are both equally difficult. Time passes, but Karasuma Ren still hasn't returned. Seiichi wonders just how long women take in the bathroom and starts feeling like something might be wrong. Just then, his phone rings. The moment he answers, a deafening scream nearly blows out his eardrum. Someone on the other end is yelling at him, demanding an explanation. Seiichi immediately recognizes the voice. It's Taka-san. He asks what's going on, but Taka, sounding desperate, keeps shouting that he's in trouble and that Seiichi needs to do something. However, just as he's about to explain further, the call abruptly cuts off. Meanwhile, Ren is firing at Taka, forcing him to take cover. He curses at her to stop, but she keeps shooting, her expression cold and terrifying. Seiichi arrives and Taka calls him a traitor, swearing that he'll never forgive him and warning him not to think things will be easy from here on out. But before he can say more, a bullet lands dangerously close to his face, silencing him. Ren, her voice sharp and intimidating, tells him that threats don't work on a police officer. In fact, they only add to his list of crimes. Taka tries to defend himself, but Ren coldly states that he was caught red-handed selling illegal weapons and other contraband, so she has no choice but to arrest him. Then she suddenly turns to Seiichi and demands to know why he's here. Thinking quickly, he claims that since she had been gone for so long, he got worried and came to check on her. Ren states that she hates indiscriminate crime and wonders if this whole situation is because of a betrayal. However, the fact remains, Taka was caught in the act of trafficking weapons. Seiichi realizes that if things continue like this, negotiations are going to take a dangerous turn. If he stops Ren now, that would be interfering with an arrest, but if he does nothing, things will spiral even further out of control. At that moment, Taka makes a move. He reaches for his gun. Without thinking, Seiichi lunges at Ren, knocking her down with him. Ren immediately panics, realizing that Taka still has his weapon. She tells Seiichi to get off her, but he shouts that he'll protect her. Both Ren and Taka freeze, completely stunned. Seiichi's words leave room for different interpretations. Ren, completely misreading the situation, thinks he's confessing his devotion to her. Meanwhile, Taka assumes Seiichi is just causing a distraction so he can escape, which ironically is the correct assumption. Taking advantage of the moment, Taka bolts, disappearing from the scene. Ren, however, is too flustered to focus on the fugitive. Her face is completely red after what just happened. After a moment, she apologizes for acting so cold earlier. She admits that when Seiichi said he wouldn't betray her, it actually made her happy. She smiles, saying that from now on, they can get along. Seiichi, meanwhile, is having an internal meltdown. What now? Ren still has the marriage certificate, and if things keep progressing like this, he's done for. Thinking fast, he blurts out that he doesn't want to just be friends. Instead, why don't they be something more than friends but less than lovers? Ren, her face turning even redder, processes his words. To her, this strange, undefined relationship feels innocent yet intoxicating. Completely flustered, she agrees, saying that this kind of relationship is fine. Seiichi, realizing that his sweet talking actually worked, internally breathes a sigh of relief. It was a critical hit. Seiichi is in a bit of a pickle. He's stuck with a clingy student who insists on calling him Big Bro and wants to go on a date. While he appreciates the sentiment, he's not about to cross that line. After all, the kid's still a student. The girl, of course, doesn't see the issue, but before they can keep arguing, Seiichi casually tells her to turn around. And there she is. Ren, looking like she just caught him committing a federal crime. She's not even subtle about it, throwing out a dramatic, "Who's this woman?" as if she caught him cheating. An hour earlier, Seiichi was walking down the street, drowning in existential dread. His current situation, a complete nightmare. His job as a con artist is already risky, but now he's dealing with Karasuma Ren, a cop. If she catches on to his little side hustle, it's game over. But if he refuses to cooperate with his own shady organization, he might just end up retired permanently. Now, he's trapped in a brutal balancing act, close enough to Ren to avoid suspicion, but not so close that she uncovers the truth. It's a tightrope walk over hungry alligators, all waiting for him by name. Meanwhile, he notes a girl is getting the worst sales pitch of her life from some guy claiming to be an emergency entertainment producer. Sketchy title aside, he's trying to convince her that she's model material and he's got all the right connections. She's buying into it when out of nowhere, Seiichi swoops in like a hero in a scam-busting PSA. The producer is instantly annoyed and tries to flash his business card like it's a golden ticket, insisting that if Seiichi has doubts, he should just call the office and check. Seiichi, unimpressed, pulls out his phone. The scammer immediately gets defensive, warning that if he doesn't like the answer, he'll sue for defamation. The girl starts panicking, suggesting they just drop it before things escalate. But Seiichi casually flips his screen to show her. Surprise, he didn't call the agency. He called the cops. The scammer's face turns ghostly pale as Seiichi, completely unfazed, drops that he happens to have a friend in the police force. She instantly appears on the scene, flashing her gun at Seiichi. Sensing danger, he quickly asks her to put away her gun before things get out of hand. Ren playfully teases Seiichi, saying she thought he was fooling around with another girl. He tells her there's no need to confirm anything. The girl thanks him and quickly runs off. Ren remarks that it's a good thing he caught on to the guy being a scammer, but Seiichi brushes it off as luck. Our lad has been a con artist for a long time. He's gotten really good at reading people, which is why he knew what was up. Ren thanks him in her role as an officer, but Seiichi just says there are some things he can't let slide. As a con artist, he takes pride in what he does, unlike those weak scammers who get caught so easily. In his mind, people like that don't deserve any sympathy. Ren, however, switches topics and notes that he seems pretty popular, mentioning how that student was happily clinging to him earlier. She then tries to do the same, but Seiichi smoothly dodges, which annoys her. She demands to know why he avoided her but let the other girl hang on to him. Suddenly, she bluntly asks if he fell for the student at first sight. At this point, we're reminded that Officer Karasuma Ren has a special instinct for sensing criminals. She starts pressing him about how he figured out the scammer's scheme when the guy seemed totally normal, and whether he's really as honest as he acts. Then, as if snapping back into reality, her dulled crime-sensing ability suddenly kicks in again, making her realize she had let her guard down around him. She starts questioning why he ran away from her earlier, but when Seiichi tells her she doesn't own him, she pulls out her gun, declaring that she's going to punish him. He has no idea why he's suddenly the one in trouble, but then he makes the mistake of telling her she's not some naive girl who can be toyed with. That flusters her so much that she accidentally fires her gun into the air. Trying to cover up her embarrassment, she awkwardly insists that it's not like she would mind being his. Seiichi suddenly realizes he might be able to use this to his advantage. Love makes people blind, and in Ren's case, her heightened instincts seem to go haywire when emotions get involved. But at the same time, this also makes her even more unpredictable, and he wonders how he's supposed to live peacefully with someone who can sniff out every suspicious detail about him. Before he can even fully process all this, Ren suddenly drops a bombshell. She straight up suggests they start dating. Seiichi pretends not to hear, but she repeats it, this time with even more confidence. He reminds her that they literally just met yesterday, but she argues that love doesn't follow a schedule. She adds that his earlier words about not using her really touched her, something he immediately regrets saying. Determined to keep pushing forward, she even strikes a playful finger gun pose, completely catching him off guard. Seiichi tries to slow things down, telling her that relationships should be built on mutual support, not just rushed into. Surprisingly, Ren takes this seriously and agrees that people shouldn't use each other. So, he proposes a compromise. Instead of officially dating, they should try something that's more than friends, but less than lovers. This intrigues Ren, but she asks him to clarify what he means. He explains that they could go on dates, shop together, and eat out, but Ren immediately calls him out, pointing out that those are all things couples do. To her, this pretty much means they are dating. Seiichi insists that this is simply the beauty of simplicity, and the narrator explains that wabi-sabi represents appreciating simplicity. Ren asks for a clearer example, so Seiichi describes a romantic school setting where they're sharing an umbrella in the rain, standing so close that they touch. Ren, lost in this fantasy, experiences an intense anime nosebleed, and Seiichi realizes her concept of romance is stuck at a high school level. In Japanese culture, simplicity is a modest virtue, and by learning about emotional distance together, their bond naturally deepens, making Seiichi appreciate this more than friends but less than lovers stage even more. However, he soon notices that Ren is standing way too close, which she denies, fully embracing the concept of the beauty of simplicity. Ren suggests they hold hands, but Seiichi instantly refuses, insisting it's against the philosophy. She argues even friends do, but he counters that only little kids hold hands, right as two walk by, proving him wrong. Cornered, he concedes it might be fine, but before he can react, Ren smoothly handcuffs herself to him. Stunned, he panics as she smugly points out they're connected without touching, perfectly fitting his beauty of simplicity rule. Clever as it is, he immediately rejects it in terror. Ren is still not on board with this whole wabi-sabi thing, whatever that means to her. Meanwhile, Our boy is internally sighing, thinking, yep, she heard about it, but let's be real, we're not lovers or friends. We're literally a cop and a criminal. He knows that's the truth, but something about it just doesn't sit right. To change the mood, he suggests that Ren should at least eat her cake. Not that she needed the suggestion, she was going to devour it anyway. But as he watches her, something unexpected happens. He catches himself staring, realizing that, yeah, she's actually kind of cute. Not that it matters. He's a con artist and feelings like that are just distractions. Completely unnecessary. Nope, no feelings here. Before he can spiral further into self-denial, Ren yanks him out of his thoughts with a sudden move. Turns out she's trying to feed him a bite of cake. He's not even surprised. He saw this coming from a mile away. In fact, he was so prepared for it that he's already planned out his response. With a straight face, he shuts the whole thing down by revealing a very serious truth. He doesn't like sweets. Ren, unfazed, immediately questions his entire existence. If that's the case, why are they even here? He tries to counter with logic. Cafes aren't just for feeding each other cake, and let's not forget that she was the one who dragged him in here. Checkmate, right? Wrong. He starts overanalyzing her mindset, concluding that if she truly thinks this is romantic, then her idea of love is straight out of a high school drama. But hey, that's no reason to ignore the topic altogether. Maybe if she took a second to cool off, she'd see things more clearly. Too bad Ren has no intention of letting him think for even a second longer. If he's not going to accept her cake, then there's only one other option. He should feed her instead. And just like that, his mental alarm bells go off. Yep, saw that coming too. The narrator chimes in with some words of wisdom. Feeding someone is totally a couple thing, and if they go through with it, they're basically one step away from being an official item. And once that happens, there's no turning back. It's like walking into a trap made of sugar and embarrassment. Ren, ever persistent, looks at him expectantly, and then it happens. In a desperate attempt to regain control, he blurts out something that immediately backfires. Instead of framing it as a cute couple's moment, he somehow makes it sound like he's feeding a pet. Which, of course, prompts Ren to turn and check the reflection in the window. And what does she see? Not a romantic scene, but an embarrassing moment that truly does look like she's a puppy getting treats. Fantastic. By the time he finally makes a move, the situation has completely flipped. He thought he was the one in charge, but somehow, without even realizing it, he's now in a completely passive position. Ren, on the other hand, is watching this unfold and thinking, wow, he looks so pathetic right now. He scrambles to regain control, stating that this whole thing is way too soon. Meanwhile, the narrator drops some insight. His grand plan was to keep their relationship strictly platonic to just friend extent. But here's the thing, he completely misread the situation. Turns out, Ren does want to take their relationship to the next level, but from her perspective, it's not about romance. It's more about going out for a meal together. Ren knows she has to take the lead if she doesn't want the protagonist to completely misunderstand her. Since she's never really thought about guys before, this feels like a rare opportunity, one she's not willing to waste. That's exactly why she's so persistent. If she lets this moment slip away, who knows when she'll get another chance. Since things aren't quite going her way, she moves to the next phase of her plan. She asks Seiichi if she can take a sip of his coffee. He's so caught off guard that he practically chokes on his drink. Spitting it out in shock, he demands to know why she won't just order her own. Ren, ever calm, explains that she wants to try it, just not enough to commit to an entire cup. Then, with a completely innocent face, she adds that sharing is what friends do. That's when it hits him. He's walked right into a trap. Because she said friends, he can't exactly refuse without making things weird. But as he processes the situation, his eyes widen in horror. This isn't just about coffee, it's an indirect kiss. Just as she is about to press her lips to the cup, Seiichi panics and blurts out a question. Is friendship really your only reason for doing this? Ren pauses for a second, then gives him a knowing look and flips the question back on him. Is that all she was thinking about? That completely throws him off. Wait, is there something else he is missing here? Before he can even attempt to figure it out, Ren casually pulls out her phone. When he asks what she's doing, she nonchalantly says she just texted her coworkers, letting them know she's sharing a coffee with a friend. He immediately freaks out. Ren, smirking like a cat who just cornered a mouse, tells him to think about how others might interpret that. He starts scrambling for a way out, but before he can come up with anything, Ren drops another bomb. Maybe he should meet her coworkers. Absolutely terrified, Seiichi panics and claims he's already had too much caffeine. His coffee must be cold by now, so they should totally just order a fresh one. But Ren shuts that idea down instantly. She says she doesn't mind it cold. She lifts the cup, fully prepared to take a sip. But then she suddenly stops. Seiichi watches her hesitate and asks if she actually doesn't like coffee after all. Ren, looking uncharacteristically vulnerable, admits that's not the issue. Her hand is even shaking. Turns out she hates bitter things. Normally she drowns her coffee in sugar, but since this cup isn't hers, she can't just dump a mountain of sweetener into it. After all, if they're sharing, it wouldn't be fair to mess with his drink. She sighs in defeat and confesses that she's a 24-year-old woman who can't even take a sip of black coffee without sugar. Seeing her like this, Seiichi lets out a long sigh and gives in. He orders them a macchiato and a caramel coffee, telling her he won't laugh at her. Actually, he finds it kind of cute. A little later, after adding what seems like an entire sugar factory to her drink, Ren takes a sip and casually asks Seiichi if today's coffee tastes sweeter than usual. He sighs in relief, finally thinking the chaos is over, even if he doesn't love how things played out. But he knows that if Ren's sharp instincts kick in again, he's in trouble. He mentally compares her to a spoiled cat, one that plays with its food before eating it. Then out of nowhere, Ren calls him out. She reminds him that he doesn't like sweet things. He confirms this, wondering where she's going with it. Then she points out that she doesn't like bitter things. And with a completely serious expression, she declares that this means they'd taken another step toward becoming a couple. Seiichi nearly drops his cup in pure shock. "Excuse me, what?" He demands to know how she reached that conclusion. Ren, as confident as ever, reminds him that he was the one who said that learning about each other brings people closer. He blinks, wondering, did he actually say that? Ren grins, holding up her phone. Yup. She even recorded it. He slumps in defeat as Ren casually orders another coffee, looking as pleased as a cat who just knocked something off the table on purpose. And that's when it dawns on him. The woman sitting across from him isn't just a spoiled cat. She's a full-on predator, licking her lips while eyeing her prey. Later, Seiichi finds himself on another outing with Ren, though he's not sure if he would call it that. She casually labels it a date drive, but to him, it feels more like an arrest in progress. Later, he vents to Taka, wanting to know how long he has to keep up this act with Ren Karasuma. Taka, barely giving it any thought, tells him the deal is dragging on longer than expected and will probably last about 3 months. Shocked, Seiichi panics at the thought of keeping up the deception for that long. 3 months feels like an eternity when every second carries the risk of being found out. Taka, unfazed, reminds him that complaining won't change anything. If he really is a con artist, he better prove he can stay in character until the end. Seiichi tries to argue, but Taka walks off, leaving him muttering to himself. As he strolls alone, he processes his situation. 3 months. That means avoiding unnecessary contact with Ren. Just as he resolves to keep his distance, a car horn blares behind him. It's Ren, patrolling on her own. He questions why she isn't with a partner, and she excitedly explains that she left them behind because she smelled crime, and then saw him. To her, this is obviously fate, the power of love guiding her to him. Seiichi, sweating, insists it's nothing more than coincidence, but she quickly counters that if he phrases it romantically, she has no way to argue back. Sighing, he insists he's just stating facts and tries to excuse himself, not wanting to interfere with her job. Ren, however, is someone who takes things at face value. Calling it fate subtly distances their relationship from anything romantic, but before he can slip away, she offers him a ride. He hesitates, but she insists, leaving him no choice but to get in. As they drive, he wonders where they're going. Surely not the police station. He never even told her where he lives. What is she planning? She suddenly steers the conversation back to their relationship, pointing out that they aren't exactly a couple yet. They're more than friends, but not quite lovers. Since getting to know each other was part of the process, isn't it time to make things official? He recalls their recent discussion about sweets. That's pretty much all they've learned about each other. But Ren presses him, wanting a clear answer. When should they start dating for real? Today? Tomorrow? The day after? Seiichi panics. This is exactly what she was aiming for. He realizes she won't let him go without a response. She tells him she enjoys their dynamic, finds his attitude charming, and understands that men tend to be the romantic ones in a relationship. As the saying goes, men are romantics and women are realists. Mid-conversation, her hand slips from the steering wheel, making the car shake. Seiichi yells for her to focus. Internally, he scrambles for a strategy. If they officially start dating, her expectations will increase, and he risks being exposed. Maybe he can use a negotiation tactic, door in the face. If he suggests something extreme, she'll reject it, making it easier to push for his real preference. Testing this, he asks when she would prefer they start dating. Without hesitation, she answers, "Today, right now." Caught off guard, he quickly backpedals, saying that while they'll have to decide eventually, today seems too soon. He throws out a counter-offer, 6 months. Ren lets out a dramatic scream, and Seiichi scrambles to calm her down, reminding her to focus on the road. He hoped to compromise using negotiation, but Ren isn't the type to back down. Switching tactics, he claims that if they're going to date, proper preparations need to be made. A police car isn't exactly the ideal setting for something so important. His words fluster her, making her blush as she misinterprets his statement as a proposal. With her momentarily thrown off, he counters with a new offer, 3 months instead of 6. He has to make this work. To his surprise, she agrees. Then, without warning, she stops the car, announcing that they've arrived. Stepping out, Seiichi looks around in confusion. They're on top of a building, overlooking a breathtaking view. She tells him it's her favorite spot, and she thought it might cheer him up since he seemed tired. Realizing this was her real reason for the drive, he asks if that was really all there was to it. She smiles, asking if he feels better now. She admits that, aside from knowing he doesn't like sweets, she still doesn't know much about him. Then, taking his hand, she promises that if it's for him, she's willing to lay everything bare. Blushing, she urges him not to keep too much to himself. Seiichi turns red, nearly falling for her in the moment. This is bad. As a con man, genuine affection is completely foreign to him. If she confesses now, it'll be nearly impossible to refuse. Desperate to change the subject, he awkwardly steers the conversation elsewhere. Ren, unimpressed, calls him dense. Seiichi wonders if, for once, she isn't sensing the usual crime vibes around him. Maybe he managed to dodge her suspicion. Either way, it's only 3 months. He just has to hold out. Sorry, Ren Karasuma. If he weren't a con man, and she wasn't a cop, maybe things could have been different. But that's not the case. He can't fall for anyone. Just as he thinks the night is over, Ren suddenly announces that there's one more place she wants to take him. Seiichi stands frozen, his mind in complete disarray. How did it come to this? What even is this situation? He looks around, trying to process everything. Yeah, there's no mistake. This is definitely a love hotel. His confusion only grows. Why the hell did Ren bring him here? She had said she wanted to show him one more place, but he had let his guard down, assuming her understanding of love was as innocent as a middle schooler's. Before he can fully wrap his head around it, Ren steps out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, and casually sits beside him. His experience with women as a con man has always been about manipulation, seeing them as targets rather than romantic interests. But even for him, Ren's presence is hard to ignore. His eyes are drawn to her, even if only for a moment, and he tries to snap himself out of it. He reminds her that they had agreed to wait 3 months before officially dating, so why are they even here? He hesitates, trying to find the right words, but she looks at him, completely clueless. That's when it hits him, she never actually agreed to that. The realization makes him laugh hysterically. At the time, he had thought he succeeded in convincing her, but now he starts to wonder if Ren had been playing along all along. She's even more clever than he expected. His body reacts on instinct, and for a moment he shifts into his usual approach, about to go along with it, but just as he moves to grab her, he stops him with a quiet plea, asking her not to embarrass her any further. As a con artist, all this is just part of the job, but this situation is different. He wasn't expecting to be the one on the receiving end of a setup. His thoughts freeze for a second, but his body remembers the routine. He starts to act almost as if on autopilot. She's inexperienced. He was about to go through with it out of habit, but now he forces himself to stop. His perspective shifts. He isn't dealing with a target. This isn't just another con. He's suddenly very aware of the weight of the situation. She asks him what's wrong, and he steps back, telling her that he can't let himself get carried away with someone inexperienced. She brushes it off, saying she doesn't mind, but he insists. Even if she doesn't regret it now, he would. That's all there is to it. Her expression falls for a moment before she quietly asks if he's getting cold feet. Something in her voice makes him react. Without thinking, he grabs her shoulders, frustrated. He calls her out for avoiding eye contact, for the way she's been subtly trying to hide her body. Deep down, she's nervous too, isn't she? She's trembling. Even if she asks him to be gentle, things don't always go as expected. He presses her on it, using her inexperience as a way to break her resolve, and for a second, he thinks he's won, until she snaps. Her patience finally runs out. She yells at him, fed up with how much he's been overanalyzing everything. She's sick of his excuses, and she's done with him acting like he knows better. If a woman offers herself to him, why won't he just accept it? Frustrated, she grabs his collar, demanding to know if he finds her that unattractive. He tries to protest again, but she suddenly gives him a teasing look, tilting her head. That's when she hits him with a smirk and asks if he's a virgin. The accusation makes him pause. His mind short-circuits for a second. She keeps going, poking at his pride, laughing about how it all makes sense now. His hesitation, his constant overthinking. Of course, he's a virgin. That explains everything. Hearing her say it so confidently makes him snap internally. She has some nerve provoking him despite being inexperienced herself. Annoying, she continues to tease him, pointing out how he always shrivels up when things get too real. She even calls it kind of cute. That's it. He's not about to let her get the last word. He gets up, stepping closer to her. If she's so sure of herself, then fine. She shouldn't underestimate him. She smirks, acting as if she's finally won. She assumes he's finally given in, but he stops her in her tracks with one simple statement. He lays it out clearly. If they go through with this without dating, there's only one way to define that kind of relationship. A purely physical one. That's what it would be. The words hit her like a brick. She freezes. Her whole body stiffens. She trembles. This isn't what she wanted at all. She backs away from him, looking horrified. He watches as the realization sinks in, and just like that, she bolts. He sighs as she rushes out, reminding her not to forget her clothes. He sits back, running a hand through his hair, muttering about how it was a bit of a waste. After all that effort, all that tension, it ends like this. Before she storms out completely, he makes one last comment, pointing out how ridiculous it is to bring a police car to a love hotel. That does it. Her anger flares up all over again, and she storms off, yelling that he better remember this. As she speeds off in the police car, another officer catches sight of it, looking confused. That was definitely Ren's patrol car. Ren's colleague, Tabasa, is fuming with frustration, demanding that Ren spill the truth about what she's been up to. She's convinced she has all the proof she needs. Ren, flustered and trying to keep her cool, insists she hasn't done anything wrong. Well, at least not successfully. She admits she tried something, but it didn't work out. Apparently, the guy she's seeing is the kind who likes to take things slow in relationships. Tabasa's ears practically perk up at the word he, and suddenly, all her interrogation skills are redirected to one burning question. Does Ren have a boyfriend? Ren, now blushing so hard she could power a small city, stammers that he's not technically her boyfriend yet. They're in that awkward but thrilling stage of being more than friends, but not quite lovers. This revelation hits Tabasa like a truck. She'd known Ren since childhood, and in all those years she never saw her so much as glance at a guy. And now, out of nowhere, Ren has a man. The shock is real. She feels a strange mix of emotions bubbling up, maybe even a little sentimental, which of course she would never admit. Ren, noticing the shift, quickly apologizes, but Tabasa shakes it off. Instead, she graciously forgives Ren for ditching her duties, and for what she assumes was a romantic getaway to a love hotel. Ren immediately corrects her, but she also realizes this might not be the best time to bring up happy relationship stuff, especially since Tabasa just broke up with her boyfriend. Predictably, Tabasa does not appreciate the reminder and dramatically declares that finding a new man is so easy for her. Ren simply nods, taking her seriously, which only irritates Tabasa more. To her, the only thing worse than heartbreak is someone earnestly believing she's okay when she's clearly spiraling. Trying to regain control of the conversation, Tabasa starts grilling Ren about this mystery man. What does he do for a living? What's his number? Where does he live? Ren's answers range from "I don't know" to "he just picks me up when we go out." With every response, Tabasa's suspicion levels rise dramatically. How does Ren know literally nothing about this guy? But then, Ren drops the bombshell. She does know one very important thing. He's got amazing technique. Tabasa almost chokes on her own disbelief. Ren, completely oblivious, just nods excitedly, thinking she's finally given her friend some useful information. Meanwhile, Tabasa is internally screaming. Piecing everything together, Tabasa decides this guy is definitely up to something. He's shy yet experienced, romantic yet evasive. He shows up for dates but keeps no contact. The math is not mathing. Ren, however, is still floating in the clouds of first love, completely unconcerned. When Tabasa warns her she might be getting played, Ren laughs it off, joking that Tabasa is just jealous. That's it. Tabasa has had enough. If Ren won't wake up, she'll personally drag this Seiichi guy into the light and expose whatever shady business he's hiding. Later that evening, Ren and Seiichi are on a date, which ends suspiciously early. Seiichi apologizes, saying he has urgent matters to attend to, but promises to see her soon. Tabasa, watching from a distance, is not buying it. Who leaves a date at 7 p.m.? What kind of nonsense is this? Ren might be love-struck, but Tabasa is on high alert. Time for some detective work. She starts tailing Seiichi and, for a while, doesn't find anything out of the ordinary. Then she sees him stop to pet a cat. Okay, maybe he's not all bad. Cats don't just like anyone. Feeling oddly reassured, she tries to pet the same cat, only for it to immediately flee like it just saw a ghost. Rude. She follows him a bit longer but eventually concludes that he's probably a nice guy, maybe. Just to be sure, she keeps observing. But just as she loses sight of him and starts running to catch up, a group of sketchy guys stops her, making unwelcome comments. Before she can even shut them down, Seiichi swoops in like a knight in stylishly casual clothing, grabs her hand, and pulls her away, leaving the troublemakers in shock. Tabasa, a little embarrassed but grateful, thanks him, admitting that normally she wouldn't have let herself get caught in such a situation. Seiichi, ever the gentleman, simply tells her to be more careful, because, after all, she's a woman before she's a cop. The words catch her off guard, hitting her somewhere deep. Not that she'd admit it. As he turns to leave, she seizes the moment and asks him some casual questions. Nothing too obvious, just enough to probe. He claims he just finished a meeting and was heading home, and while it all sounds reasonable, something about him still feels off. Tabasa casually walks away, tossing a quick goodbye to Seiichi, making sure to introduce herself before disappearing into the night. Meanwhile, the two guys who were bothering her earlier are still standing there, now looking pretty sheepish. Turns out they had no clue she was actually a cop. Oops. They quickly apologize to Seiichi, but he's not in a very forgiving mood. His glare alone is enough to make them sweat. He reminds them, none too gently, that if the cops ever find out about their connection to him, things won't end well. Right on cue, Taka strolls in, all chill as usual, telling Seiichi to ease up on them. He promises to give them a good scolding later, though, knowing him, it probably won't be that serious. Then he turns to Seiichi, asking how that fake ID he arranged is working out. Seiichi admits it was perfect timing and came in handy right away. But as usual, he grumbles about how these kinds of things should really be sorted out in advance, not last minute like always. Taka, completely unfazed, just shrugs and apologizes like it's no big deal. As Seiichi watches Tabasa leave, he starts piecing things together. He knew about her from their investigation. She's Ren's partner, after all, but he had no idea she was the one tailing him. Now, that's a little concerning. He just hopes she doesn't turn into a real problem. Meanwhile, Tabasa is still lost in thought. That whole, "you're a woman before you're a cop" comment. Kind of sweet, actually, but then a thought hits her. Wait a minute, she never told him she was a police officer. That's kind of suspicious. Maybe he's not as innocent as he seems after all.